Hello everyone, today we're going to be updating our support tier list to account for the mid-season 4 patch that has certainly shaken up the meta. Now supports themselves didn't get changed too much, there were a few buffs and nerfs, but overall they're basically the same heroes you know and love, but the game itself has been changing a lot and the landscape that you'll be playing in looks very different. So we're going to go through every single support and rank them on this tier list, and I know I've got a few hot takes on this list, but please bear with me, I'll be explaining how I'm ranking every single hero as we go through them. And don't forget to like the video if you enjoy this type of content, subscribe to the channel if you want to see even more of it, and head over to GameLeap.com if you're really looking to level up your play. Over there on our website, we have hundreds of videos made by our top level coaches, and there's more being added every single week. These cover everything from the basics, pure fundamentals, to in-depth, step-by-step character guides, and even some coach-led VOD reviews on there. So no matter what type of player you are, or what hero you happen to be one-tricking this season, the guides on our website are your best bet for improving your play. So check out the link below this video, or just head over to GameLeap.com and get your membership started today. Let's kick things off at the bottom of the list, down in the C tier, we are going to put Lifeweaver once again. Lifeweaver did receive a change this patch. I guess you could call this a buff. He can no longer interrupt Reinhardt's Earth Shatter with his life grip. I guess this helps, but overall, Lifeweaver is such a lackluster hero to play right now. Now, on paper, Lifeweaver definitely has a lot going for him, and in theory, his utility should allow him to make some really clutch plays. But when he's put into practice, it can be very hard to find those clutch moments to make use of his utility, and overall, he falls behind in every other area. He doesn't have strong mobility, his healing is okay, but it's not great, and he has no real offensive abilities either. Simply put, Lifeweaver cannot carry games. He doesn't have enough offensive pressure, and his defensive utility, while strong, is way too situational and is not enough to keep up with the fast-paced environment of Overwatch 2. So he stays in the C tier for now, and until he gets either reworked or majorly buffed, or some genius cracks the code of how this hero is supposed to be played. And with Lifeweaver out of the way, we can move right up into the B tier. And before I reveal these heroes, because I know I'm going to get roasted in the comments for some of these picks, I want you guys to know that I had two things in mind when I was making this tier list. First being, is this character appropriate for all levels of skill? So whether you're bronze or top 500, I don't care about your skill level. I want to know how viable this hero is overall. And two, how viable is this hero to solo queue with? How viable is it to make sure you're the one taking influence over your game, since you can rarely rely on strong teammates when you're solo queuing as a support? And with that said, my first hero in the B tier is going to be Mercy. Mercy is a fantastic support. However, she's incredibly reliant on having strong, if not overperforming teammates to find most of her value. She has a very low skill floor. It's very easy to find a base level of value as Mercy, being able to stay alive and put out good healing numbers and things like that. But in order for a Mercy to be the true difference maker in a game of Overwatch overall, she usually needs a very strong DPS partner that she'll be able to pocket 90% of the time. And while it's not uncommon for Mercy players to solo queue into a game and find a halfway decent DPS to roam around with, if most of the time all you're doing is healing them or flying back to your tank to heal them, you're usually going to be better off in a different support who can more easily find offensive value. And in any games where you don't have a strong pocket target, Mercy kind of just feels like a filler hero. She's just kind of there and not really having much influence over the course of the game. So B tier for now. My next hero in the B tier is going to be Moira, and I debated putting Moira down in the C tier, but she's way better than Lifeweaver. She's just not strong enough, again, offensively to make much difference in her games. Now in lower level lobbies, Moira can absolutely run the show just by denying a lot of kills to her enemies, by keeping her teammates topped up with so much overhealing, and of course by building fast coalescence charges and being able to find value with her ultimate. But in every other rank of play, unless you're finding really clutch DPS Moira moments, you again kind of feel like you're there as a crutch. You're there as the safest support pick who won't die while still being able to put out strong heals. And while Moira can find value aggressively by going into pure DPS mode and hitting the enemy backline, that is very inconsistent unless your team knows how to play around that and the enemy team doesn't know how to respond appropriately to it. Alright, next up in the B tier, this is my hottest take by far. I'm putting Kiriko all the way down here in the B tier. And now I know with Junker Queen becoming hard meta these days with the massive buffs she received, having the cleanse effect on her Suzu is very valuable. However, unless you are a very skilled Kiriko player, you won't be finding enough value just defensively to really have a big influence over the game. And that's going to be the theme with a lot of the support picks on this list. If all you can do is act defensively in response to enemy threats, that can be good to stabilize situations, but overall that's not going to be enough to truly carry and have a strong influence over the course of a game. And that's why Kiriko is being played so much at a high level, because extremely experienced players can hit very consistent shots and usually find reliable kills as Kiriko as well, which makes her an S tier hero when we're talking about the top level of play. But for everyone in a more average skill range, say anything from diamond and below right now, Kiriko feels very defensive focused, very heal body, and usually doesn't keep up with other supports on the list who can usually find more consistent value there. So yeah, Kiriko's in the B tier simply because acting defensively and using Suzu on reaction is not enough to find value on this hero. You need to be playing her aggressively and finding good damage as well, otherwise she's not worth the pick and she'll stay in B tier. And even though Kiriko did get buffed slightly this patch, her kunai reload speed's a little bit faster. Again, this really only influences those aggressive playmaking Kiriko players. It doesn't have any influence over her defensive capabilities. Alright, moving up to the A tier, my first hero here is going to be Ana, and she actually received a bit of a nerf this patch. The explosion healing of her biotic grenade is being reduced from 100 down to 60. This does make the defensive utility of Ana a bit weaker. It makes her self-survivability a little bit weaker as well, but overall the offensive power of her biotic grenade is still overwhelmingly strong, and with brawl compositions and specifically Junker Queen compositions becoming so popular, this ability is incredibly powerful right now. Most brawl compositions, when they go head to head, whether that's led by a Junker Queen, Ramatra, Reinhardt, or even an Orisa, are relying on some abilities finding major value before they can really push forward and go all in. Sometimes that comes from the tank, with Junker Queen hitting a big knife pull or Reinhardt hitting a big pin, and of course big sources of damage from your DPS line can force this shift as well, whether that's with an aggressive dynamite play from an Ashe, a headshot hit by a hit scan member, or sometimes with something like Mei's Wall for utility. These all enable a lot of aggressive moments, but there aren't many supports that can force that type of engage, and that's where Ana comes in. Being able to hit even a single member with your biotic grenade and apply your anti-healing effects, or sometimes even hitting a sleep dart on someone who's out of position, instantly opens up the fight for you and your teammates. No other supports on this list have so many different types of opportunities to get a fight going in their team's favor. And keep in mind that Ana can do all of that with relative safety and without sacrificing much of her healing thanks to the range of her rifle. Overall, I'd say Ana's in a fantastic spot right now and has some of the best abilities in the game on every single button that she can press. Next up in the A tier is going to be Baptiste. Bap feels a little bit over-kitted with defensive utility with his strong AoE burst healing and his immortality field, of course, but when compared to other supports that are focused on defensive utility, like say Lifeweaver or even Kiriko with their Suzu, Baptiste never misses an opportunity to get aggressive and throw some damage in thanks to the strength of his primary fire. The damage on his rifle is frankly insane. He puts out higher damage numbers than some DPS characters, and it's on a hit scan weapon, allowing for greater precision. And while it does take a little bit to get used to Bap's mechanics to account for his burst fire kickback and to be able to mix in damage and healing at the same time, once you're able to get comfortable on this hero, the potential is limitless. And on top of all of that, Bap also got a buff this patch where his cooldown on his immortality field has been reduced by 2 whole seconds, which isn't a lot, but it will make this ability more reliable, especially in a mid-fight. If you've already used it once, now you only have to wait 23 seconds before you can use it again. Yeah, you still won't get more than 1 lamp off in the middle of a fight, but this will make it more reliable. If you happen to use it early, it'll come back just a little bit sooner. Next up in the A tier is going to be Brigitte. Ever since last patch, where she got basically reworked with her rally becoming a much more consistent defensive ultimate now, Brig has been a very solid support pick in most different compositions, but she thrives in close range brawls because she can get aggressive with her frontliners without putting herself at too much risk, and is able to apply her inspire healing to more members around her. Being able to play alongside a Junker Queen or Ramatra or even a Sigma in the front line is the playground Brig has been waiting for a long time. And while she might have been designed as a counter to some faster paced dive based heroes, she's now a very solid frontline brawler herself, and she doesn't really fall behind in healing as well, as long as she's managing her repair packs well. You do do have to keep in mind when you're playing Brig that you aren't in fact a tank. It might feel like it's sometimes with your range and the fact that you have a shield, but if you get too aggressive as Brig or you try to get aggressive by yourself, it is very common to get caught out or surrounded or just bursted down. So don't get too excited on Brig in the front line. Look to follow your tank into battle and look to help them with their targets before you go find your own. Our next hero rounding out the A tier is going to be Lucio. Lucio is an interesting hero because I think he finds very strong value in both the lower and higher ends of play consistently, but for very different reasons. In lower level lobbies, you can play Lucio kind of slower and more reactive as a defensive pick. You can use his speed to get away from threats or his boops the same way, and of course your passive healing is never going to hurt in lower level lobbies where spam damage is being eaten left and right. And in a higher level lobby, speed is everything. Being able to go all in on an engage with the power of your speed boost is game changing in a high level lobby where everyone is coordinating and trying to collapse onto the same target. And if you're able to master your mechanics on Lucio, you can also become an independent aggressive threat by using your mobility and the speed and wall ride to get on top of backliners and either boop them out of position or go all in for the kill yourself. And in both low and high level lobbies, Sound Barrier is the most consistent defensive ultimate in the entire game right now, and its value cannot be understated. I've heard some players say that Lucio's Sound Barrier is the strongest ultimate in the game because when used against any opposing enemy ultimate, it usually comes out on top. Even if you're going up against big ult combos like Zarya's Grav and Hanzo's Dragon combined together, or Genji's Blade being nanoed by an Ana, a quick Sound Barrier when timed properly can instantly deny value from those ultimates and allow your team to get aggressive instead. Alright, now we're moving up into the S tier where we only have one hero remaining, and that's going to be Zenyatta. But make no mistake here, despite being a support hero, Zenyatta is definitely a DPS hero at heart. His independent damage from his primary fire and the one-shot potential from his volley, his secondary fire, is worth talking about on its own, but Zenyatta's real offensive utility comes in the form of his Discord Orb. Ask any tank player in the world who their least favorite support hero is, and they'll probably say Zenyatta, because they're sick and tired of being discorded and hit in the face with Zen's orbs. It's frankly insane how much pressure this ability provides, since just marking a target with Discord Orb, even if you're not able to shoot at them directly yourself, makes them think and play the game differently in order to account for all that incoming damage. And yes, Zen is a glass cannon. He does struggle in close range or when he's being surrounded by too many enemy threats because he has no mobility and no defensive resources he can use on himself, but this doesn't matter as much these days with so many close range brawly type tanks entering the meta. Since we're no longer in dive central and we can handle ourselves against most types of tanks and DPS in the front line, Zen can play very safely at range now and can usually find a ton of value while doing so. And despite not being the best at putting out healing for his team, Transcendence is a great get out of jail free tool anytime your team is at critical numbers or you're just trying to counter an important ultimate. So yeah, overall I would say Zenyatta is definitely the strongest support in the game right now if your main goal is to try and solo queue carry most of your games. And that will wrap up our tier list. And like I said, guys, I know I've got more than a few hot takes up on here, so let me know what I got wrong. Let me know what you guys think about this tier list down in the comments, what you would change based on your experience. If you like the videos we put out on YouTube here, if you find this stuff helpful, then the guides on our website will blow your mind. Over there, you'll find everything you need to become the best player you can be, starting with basic fundamentals and game knowledge, all the way up to in-depth step-by-step hero courses to maximize your playstyle. So what are you waiting for? Click the link below this video or go to GameLeap.com today and get your membership started right now. Anyway, that's all from me today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.